Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar Open University.
Dear students, I, Dr. Shivang Patel, Associate Professor from School of Computer Science, welcome you all from the Chaitanya Studio of Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar Open University. In the lecture series of Python programming, in the previous unit, we have discussed basic fundamentals of object-oriented programming in Python language. We have discussed object, we have discussed class, how to create class, how to create objects, how to create variables, how to create methods, how to call various variables, how to call various methods. We have also discussed multiple types of variable like instance variable, class variable, and we have also discussed multiple types of methods like class method, static method, instance method. Now in today's session, we are going to start the next unit, that is inheritance and polymorphism. So in this unit, you will able to learn or understand principle of inheritance and polymorphism in Python. So basically this unit divided into two parts, polymorphism and inheritance. We will discuss one by one. You can also differentiate various types of inheritance. As you already aware, in other programming languages, there are multiple kind of inheritance are available. The same concept that we are using here in the Python programming, and we will see all other types of inheritance in Python. Now after completion of this unit, you will also implement the concept of method overriding and understand its application. We will see this concept with demonstration also. Then after, you can able to describe what is encapsulation, what is data hiding, and how to implement it effectively. So suppose you are requiring to secure your data. In that case, you are requiring to use that particular feature called data hiding. So we are implementing this feature with the help of encapsulation that we will discuss with demonstration. And then after, you will able to understand what are abstract classes and interface that are used in object-oriented programming, especially in Python. So these are the learning objectives. You will able to understand all these topics after completion of this unit. Now we'll start with introduction. So as we have already discussed, basically in all other previous session, we have seen basic fundamental features of object-oriented programming. We have seen objects, we have seen classes, and with the help of these objects and classes, how our code, Python code, that can be modularized, that can be clear, and that can be reusable, that we have already discussed. Now in practical approach or in real life applications, whenever you are using multiple classes, it is required to relate all those classes, or you can say that whatever the objects that you are dealing with multiple classes, they are interconnected, or you want to relate all those objects of specific classes. In that case, you are requiring to relate all those classes, and this relation that can be managed with the help of inheritance concept. So in object-oriented programming, inheritance, that is the mechanism that allow one class to inherit the attributes and the methods of another class. As you already aware, basically with the concept of inheritance, you can say that some of the classes, or you can say that one class, that is the parent class, you can also say that it is super class, and the other class, that is called derived class or the child class. So if you want to derive whatever the properties, you can say that the fields as well as whatever the characteristics or methods that you want to derive from one class to another class, then you are requiring to implement the feature called inheritance. So in inheritance, basically one class, that is called superclass, that is base class, from which you are deriving attributes as well as the method, and the class that will derive all the attributes and the methods from its parent class, it is called child class. You can also say that it is subclass, right? So this is the normal naming convention for any of the inheritance concept. Second thing, that is polymorphism, that we are going to discuss in the next subsequent session. So first of all, as you already aware, we have started Python programming and we have discussed object oriented features. At that time we have discussed polymorphism, that means to take more than one form. So say for example, suppose in multiple classes, suppose this method having the same name, in that case what happened? The behavior that can be changed according to the class, according to the object that particular method will be called, the behavior of that particular method according to the class that will be changed. So here the method is same but the behavior that can be differ. So that will be implemented with the help of feature called polymorphism that we will discuss with demonstration in next subsequent session. Obviously the flexibility as well as extensibility that can be increased with the help of polymorphism. While you are using the inheritance concept, you can able to use the feature called reusability. Say for example, we can explain that inheritance, suppose you want to create one application and another application that requires the same kind of features of the previous application. In that case it is not required to create that application from scratch, but you are requiring to derive whatever the features of that particular application, or you can say that specifically you can derive some of the features of particular class. So it is not required to create or develop the code again and again. You can reuse that code. That is the biggest advantage, or you can say that the feature of this object oriented language called inheritance, in which you can use the feature called reusability, right? Now what is the syntax, how to implement that inheritance in our programming? So basically we can write class, then after the parent class the name can be any but it is valid, it must follow the convention of identifiers, right? So here class, that is the keyword that you have to manage, that particular syntax, all are small letter. Then the class name, normally the convention is the first letter is capital, right? It is not the thumb rule. If you are putting here small letter, there is no issue, no error will occur. But normally, as we have already discussed in the previous session of basic fundamentals of object oriented, we already discussed the syntax of class, how to create class, right? Then after the colon sign, then after suppose whatever the body you want to include, you can write after this class. Then here we have used pass. Suppose you are not requiring to write any of the statements inside that class definition, you can simply use the pass keyword. That means you are just creating that class but you are not implement any of the statements inside that class. Second class we have to write, that is the subclass. Say for example class and then after the child class. As you already aware, the first class, that is our parent class or base class or super class, and second class is child class. Now how you can define, or how Python will understand, or how any programming language or compiler will understand this class is a subclass. So here in the syntax you can observe that first of all we are writing the class as a keyword, then after the class name, and then after in parenthesis you can mention the parent class name, right? So in the parenthesis you are mentioning the parent class. So this class that will be considering as the subclass. Now what is the meaning of this subclass? So whatever the attributes, or you can say that the methods that can be used in your parent class, this child class can able to access all those attributes as well as the methods. It is not required to create any additional attributes or any additional methods here if you want to access that particular same kind of attributes or the method. Or you can also say that suppose you want to extend the feature of that particular method, in that case also it is possible with the help of this subclass hierarchy, right? Here again pass that can be used if you don't want to implement this child class. So this is the basic syntax. Now we will see with one example, so you can get more idea how this inheritance concept that will be used. Okay, now we will see one simple example of inheritance. We are creating one class, as you already aware. You can use that class as a keyword. Say for example, I am writing here one class name, that is animal. So animal is my base class, right? Then after, inside this class you have to mention some of the implementation logic or whatever the body of that particular class. Say for example, I am defining one variable here, but not defining the value here. Then after I am creating one method. So you already aware, as we have already discussed in the previous session, suppose you want to create function or method, then there is a syntax with the help of def that is defined. Then after you can mention whatever the method name. Say for example, I am writing the method name it, and this is obviously the instance method. So the first parameter must be self, that you already aware, we have already discussed in the previous session. Because it is instance method, we are writing self. If it is class method, we are writing CLS, right? So as this we have already discussed. Now the body of this particular method, so you can write any of the statements. Say for example, I am writing one print statement. So I can it, that is the statement I would like to execute. This is the simple class. Now after I am creating one more class, say for example dog. Suppose I am ending this class with colon sign, then it is the separate class. You cannot say that it is the child class or the subclass. But suppose you want to make that class as a child class, in that case what is the syntax? You are requiring to use here in parentheses whatever the parent class name, and our parent class name is animal. So now animal is your superclass or parent class, and the dog, that is your child class. Then after you can write here any of the method attributes that you are requiring. Say for example, I am writing here one method display. Again this is the instance method. So the first parameter, that is self. Now suppose I would like to print. What I should like to print? Suppose I am writing here the name. So you can write here my name is self.name. Why we are using here self? Because name is the attribute that you are using, that is the instance. That's why we are requiring that self as a parameter to access that particular name. Now the body of this class dog, that is also completed. Now as we have already discussed, suppose you want to access the attributes or the method, you are requiring to create object. So now we are creating one object. Say for example, I am writing the object name, say for example bulldog. Now how to create object? You have to mention the object name, then after equal to sign, and then after of which class you want to create object, that class name that you have to mention, and then after the parentheses, right? That is the syntax. Now you have to call the particular method. Suppose I am calling that method it, then what will be the output? It will print that I can eat, right? Execute this code. So you can see on the screen the output will be display I can eat, right? Now suppose I would like to write or assign the value to the particular variable name, then I can assign with the help of that object. So say for example bulldog name, because name is the attribute, I can access name attribute used here, that is of parent class attribute, but I am using it with the help of object of child class. So mind well, this is the concept of inheritance, by which you can use that particular variable value or whatever the variable of the parent class with the help of child object, right? Then after you can write here any of the name. Say for example, I am write here the name of the variable. Then after you can call that particular method. Say for example display method. So this method is called display. That display method is of child class method, right? So you can call with the help of that particular object. Now again execute your code. So you can able to see the output here, I can eat, and second one is my name is Tommy. So what we have done here in the code, we have just given the value Tommy, the name variable that is of parent class variable, we can access with the object of child class, because here we have created one parent class and another is the child class. So this way you can implement the concept of inheritance. It is very easy to implement. Now going back to presentation, this syntax that we have already discussed. Now multiple types of inheritance. As you already aware, in any other programming languages, there are various types of inheritance: single inheritance, multi-level inheritance, multiple inheritance, hierarchical inheritance, and hybrid inheritance. On the screen you can able to see the diagram. Based on that you can get idea. Say for example, in single inheritance there are two classes. From these two classes, one class is parent class and another class is child class. So here in this class hierarchy, only one class, only single class is a child class. That's why it is called single inheritance. Second, multi-level inheritance. Here what happened? There are three classes A, B and C. Now class A, whatever the features, that can be derived into class B. So you can say that class A is the parent class for class B, or you can also say that class B is the child class and class A is the parent class. Then after class C, that derives all the features from class B. So here you can also say that B is the child class of the A and C is also the child class of B. Suppose you want to relate between class A and C, then you can say that class A, that is the grandparent for C, or you can say that the class C, that is the grandchild for class A. So this way you can implement the concept of multi-level. Then after multiple inheritance, here what happened? Multiple classes that can be working as base class or super class. So you can say that in real life scenario, multiple features from multiple parents that you are deriving into a single child. So this way you can implement the multiple inheritance. We will see one by one all the inheritance types with demonstration, so you can get more idea. Then after the third type, hierarchical inheritance, in which only one class, that is the base class or the parent class, and all other classes that are the child class. You can say that in the single inheritance we are deriving only one class, that is the one child class, but here multiple child classes are there. So you can say that this is the hierarchical inheritance. And the next one is hybrid inheritance, in which what happened, there is one parent and multiple child. You can say that here in the figure two child are there, you can say that two children are there. So class A, that is the parent for class B and class C. Again class B and C are the parent of class D. So here you can say that here multiple inheritance that can be merged together. So hybrid inheritance, the name that is given. We will see one by one demonstration, so you can get more idea. So first we are starting with the single inheritance. We can take one example so you can get more idea. Previous program output we are clearing that. Now this demonstration that will give you the example of single inheritance. Here say for example we are creating one class, say for example person, that is my parent class. Then after I am creating one method, or say for example you are creating or initializing the constructor. As we have already discussed in the previous session, constructor that can be used to initialize whatever the variables, right? So how we can define the constructor? With the help of double underscore and init method, initialization method. This is the special method that is defining the constructor. Now constructor itself, that is the instance. So we are putting here the first parameter is self. Then after we are defining two more variables, name and age, right? Then after colon sign. Now self dot name equal to name and self dot age equal to age. So this way we can define one method. Now we are creating another class, say for example professor. So this is the simple class, but now suppose I would like to make it child class, then I can pass here the name of that particular parent. Here in this example only two classes are there, and one is parent and one is child. That's why you can say that this is the single inheritance. Now we are creating one method here, say for example is professor. Again this is the instance, that's why we are passing here this self as a first parameter. Then after you can return something, you can return like this. So you can pass here the name of professor, or you can write here self dot name is a professor of age. So age, how you can fetch the age? With the help of self dot age variable. Then after we have to create object. So object of which class? Professor class. Say for example I am creating one object sir. What is the syntax? Professor. Now here observe, we have to pass two parameter values, name and the age, right? So whenever this object is created, it will automatically call the constructor, right? So here we are passing, say for example Ram, and the value 35, that is integer value. Now we are calling that particular method, that is, or suppose print we are using, and right here calling this method. Now execute this code. You can see the output. Ram is the professor of age 35. So what happened in this code? We have created two classes, in which one class, that is the parent class, we have initialized constructor here, and two variables that we are passing, name and age. Same way we are creating another class, that is the child class, and here in the child class we are printing the value of both these variables. We are creating one object and passing these two parameter values. So with the help of object of child class, we are accessing attributes of the parent class, right? So this is the example of single inheritance. Now we are concluding our session. We have already discussed single inheritance. Basically, it is the very simplest implementation. Whenever only single class, one child class and one parent class, then you are using this single inheritance concept. We have already discussed the example. Now we are concluding our session. In today's session, we have discussed what is inheritance, various types of inheritance briefly that we have seen. We have seen what is the syntax to implement inheritance, and we have also demonstrated how to implement single inheritance. In next subsequent session, we will move forward with other types of inheritance, and in next subsequent sessions, we are going to clear the concept of polymorphism, right? Till then, happy learning, happy coding. Thank you.